Today we're working on a 648 case Ingersoll loader tractor, and what we're doing today is installing a new improved axle pin to help tighten up the front axles on these as well, like we've done with the 200, 400 series case tractors, as well as the 3000, 4000 Ingersoll models. So this here axle pin will work on the 600 series case loader tractors and the 6000 Ingersoll model loader tractors. So as you notice, we have a fair amount of play in the front axle here, and this helps limit some of that play, and depending on how much wear is on your tractor will depend on how much play it will remove, but in most cases it removes the vast majority of the play. It's a pretty straightforward installation, and here we have the axle pin that we're going to be installing, and let's get started. This is the new improved axle pin. Just to give a close-up, you have the two main machined washers with the machine pin, and then your through bolt with the lock nut. If you notice on the pin, there's a groove with a greaser hole in it for on one end, and that hole meets up with a hole here in the middle to get the grease out all around in through the middle of the axle pin. And then this is the front washer, so your greaser is going to be off the front of the tractor like the original tractor pin, and it doesn't matter where it lines up, because there's a groove in this one here that will force the grease, and it'll find its way into the hole into here. It'll always take the easiest route, so if you have this nice and tight and everything, it should find its way in through there, as long as everything is all installed properly on the tractor. So what you want to do is jack your tractor up, get the tension off the front wheels, just so it's sitting there. You don't want to lift it way up in the air or anything, just enough so you can slide the pin out and then put the new one in. So now with the factory bolt, it's a 9/16, so we're going to loosen that up. Try and spin this down a little bit and give us a finger grab. And wiggle the axle a little bit to get it out. And just like that, the old axle pin is out. We're going to take the rear washer, does not have a groove in it, and the bolt is going to go into that. We got to feed it from the back side, and if we do this right, we don't have to remove the tie rod that's running across the back side. And there's the axle pin hole on the back side here. And if we do this right, we can do this without removing the tie rod. So what we did is we put some grease on the face of the machine washer for the rear washer here to help give it a start on being greased. And we're gonna just barely start the bolt into the washer, and we're setting that up over the top of the tie rod and get it in by the hole. And there should be just enough room to, when the washer's sitting in behind there, we can still slide the bolt in past the tie rod, just like that. Now you don't have the axle pin in there yet. This is just so you got enough room, because you need to play in that large hole in order to fit this in without having to remove your tie rod. As you can see, our bolt is sticking through the hole here. We're going to take a bunch of grease and pre-grease the pin, so that way we make sure everything's greased to start with. There, we got it all greased up. Now we reach one hand behind to keep the bolt from sliding back. We're going to insert the pin with the grooved end facing forward for our grease zerk. And you might have to wiggle the axle around a little bit. And if you got the height of the tractor adjusted just right, it makes it as easy as this to install. Make sure the axle pin makes it all the way in onto the rear plate. You have to look behind there to make sure it gets in on there, depending on how much wear is on the tractor and if these plates had ever separated that holds the axle. The pin is going to look shorter than what it should be at first because it needs to squeeze these plates back together in order to tighten up the axle. Because over time those plates will separate because there's nothing that holds them in place a whole lot other than these brackets, and this plate isn't that thick for the amount of abuse that these tractors take. So you want to get it started, make sure it's started on both plates, then put your greased washer on the front, put the nut on, and then we're going to tighten it up from the back. Once you start getting it pretty tight, you might want to check off and on to see how much play is in the axle and keep going accordingly. Now we'll go on the other side here. If you remember how much play we had in the original axle pin, look at that. We took all the play out of the front axle. And there it is. So if you have a lot of play in your front axle on your loader tractors, this here will help fix most of it, if not all of it, depending on how much wear is on your tractor prior to installing one of these pins. Now we're going to go ahead and grease it up. It only took about 3 pumps on the grease gun. And that's it. Thank you for watching and good luck.